These are the headlines we're following at this hour. President Yoon Suk-yeol declares special disaster zones for 13 areas hit hardest by the torrential rain, most in the country's central and southern regions, guaranteeing state funds for local governments and individuals. North Korea fires yet another round of ballistic missiles in an apparent protest against the display of extended deterrence by Seoul and Washington. South Korea raises next year's minimum wage by 2.5% after an extended debate to 9,861, or roughly $7.80. Good afternoon. South Korea is still reeling from the aftermath of the daily torrential rain, with central and southern regions among the hardest hit. For a swift recovery in those areas, state funds will be on their way to the affected local governments and individuals, with those 13 areas now classified as special disaster zones. Our Kim Jang-sil has the details.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has first-hand declared special disaster zones for 13 areas that have been seriously damaged by the torrential rain.
The areas that will receive state support include Yecheon-gun County in Gyeongsang-buk-do Province and Cheongju City in Chungcheongbuk-do Province. Both areas suffer greatly from fatal landslides or flooding due to the heavy rain. The government explained that the reason the decision was made before the central investigation had been finalized was based on the judgment that preemptive government action is necessary to quickly repair the damage. A director general at the Ministry of the Interior and Safety told Arirang News what support is given to the affected regions.
When a large-scale disaster strikes, local governments can only recover so much with their own budgets. That is why we support them as a central government so they can get back to normal as soon as possible. Up to 80% of the damage recovery costs will be funded by the state in special disaster zones.
In addition to state support for local governments, help will be offered for individuals in the affected areas. This includes postponements on tax and discounts on utility bills. The residents will also get a discount on their health insurance fee and phone bill. For the areas that haven't been declared special disaster zones yet, the government said it plans to conduct damage analysis and make additional declarations if necessary. Kim Jang-sil, Arirang News.
As of today, 44 people have lost their lives from the extreme rainfall, while 6 others are still missing. As recovery efforts are in full swing nationwide, our Choi Soo-hyung went to one of the hardest hit regions.
Heavy rain in Chungcheongbuk-do Province has meant that the central part of the country is one of the most affected, alongside Chungcheongnam-do and Gyeongsang-nam-do provinces. Here in Gyeongsang-gun County in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, a total of over 400 millimeters rain has dropped since July 13. Flooding has caused serious damage to the fields and crops. This massive flooding was caused by the Gyeongsang-gun Dam, overflowing for the first time in 43 years, leading to the evacuation of around 6,000 residents. According to officials, approximately 600 residential and commercial facilities collapsed, and the agricultural land damage area is estimated to be around 27 square kilometers, 8 times larger than Central Park in New York. People who have been affected don't know what to do next.
This place used to be our workplace, but everything is gone. Nothing is left. The water filled that greenhouse all the way to the end. I only just got myself out at 4 a.m. I'm relieved to just be alive.
Helpers are reaching out from all over the country, and volunteers and nearby military personnel are being mobilized to carry out emergency disaster recovery.
A couple of days ago, I saw a news report about the horrible damage due to heavy rainfall in Chungcheongdo Province, which made me deeply sad. So I've decided to do volunteer work. As soon as I arrived, I noticed that everything, even the containers, is being washed away. In any case, such incidents should never happen again.
Although the water that flooded the fields has receded, the continuous rainfall is making the recovery efforts challenging. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, heavy rainfall of 100 to over 150 millimeters per hour is expected in the Chungcheongbuk-do region until Wednesday. Officials consider Thursday and Friday as the optimal time for recovery efforts. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News, Kwesan.
North Korea fired yet another round of ballistic missiles this morning. The move is seen as an apparent protest against the recent displays of extended deterrence by Seoul and Washington against the North, including the arrival of a U.S. nuclear-capable submarine in the South. Shin Ha-young has the latest.
North Korea launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles, or SRBMs, toward the EC just a week after it test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff on Wednesday detected the SRBM launch from the Sunan area of Pyongyang between 3:30 a.m. and 3:46 a.m. While further details are still being evaluated, it is known that the missiles traveled about 550 kilometers before landing in the sea. The South Korean military is working closely with the U.S. in order to be fully prepared for any further provocations. The latest launch comes after South Korea and the U.S. held their first nuclear consultative group meeting on Tuesday. The group, which was set up in April during a summit between President Yoon and President Biden, aims for better coordination and an allied nuclear response to North Korean threats. It also follows the arrival of the USS Kentucky, a U.S. nuclear-capable ballistic missile submarine in South Korea, also on Tuesday. The JCS strongly condemned the North's provocation, saying that it harms peace and stability on the Korean peninsula as well as internationally and is in clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command was quick to reaffirm its commitment to defense of South Korea and Japan. It also condemned the latest launch, saying that it didn't pose an immediate threat to the U.S. or to its allies, but it shows that the regime is undermining security through its illegal weapons development. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The launching of the nuclear consultative group comes as South Korea and the U.S. have been ramping up their cooperation in intel sharing amid rising North Korean threats in the region. This also comes as Seoul has strengthened a similar partnership with European countries. Our Osong tells us more about the latest defense efforts by Seoul.
South Korea is counting on greater information sharing with the United States and NATO countries to bolster deterrence against North Korea's fast-evolving security threat. On Tuesday, South Korea and the United States launched the Nuclear Consultative Group in Seoul after the bilateral dialogue channel was formed under Presidents Yoon and Biden's Washington Declaration in April. This came amid concerns that North Korea's missile, nuclear, and fast-evolving cyber capabilities may outpace the U.S. extended deterrence policy of defending its allies under a nuclear or conventional attack. Seoul's Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho said the NCG will address 5 key issues, including how to operate Washington's nuclear assets together with Seoul's conventional weapons, and the regular deployment of U.S. strategic assets to the south, along with various joint training exercises. However, critics say the absence of permanent deployment of nuclear weapons to South Korea could undermine the NCG's force to deter Pyongyang, especially as Seoul renewed its commitment to non-proliferation. NATO's nuclear sharing arrangement with Washington, in comparison, means some 100 B-61-type nuclear bombs are deployed to 5 allied countries as a show of strength to deter Russia. At the same time, others say the NCG is significant, providing Seoul with greater insights into Washington's strategic thinking and planning for nuclear contingencies.
Korea and the United States have to be on the same page when it comes to nuclear posture, nuclear operation definition, nuclear deterrence operation, and nuclear decision-making. No one is sure to what extent South Korea will be empowered with its voices in America's nuclear planning debates. However, we have to make it happen when we are institutionalizing the NCG.
Information sharing cooperation in particular is all the more crucial to enhance situational awareness about potential hybrid threats. South Korea enhanced information exchange with NATO last week, signing up to join the alliance's so-called BISIS system, which shares and utilizes military intelligence.
But we do know that North Korea has been working together with China and Russia, for example, and obviously South Korea has suffered several attacks from Chinese government, Russian government, or groups that are very close to these governments. And NATO has a long experience in dealing with cyber security matters, including fending off cyber attacks, especially from Russia, but also from China.
Experts say solidifying Seoul's role in critical strategic dialogue platforms will not only secure it from threats from North Korea, but enhance its role in security issues beyond the peninsula to that of a global pivotal state. Osong, Arirang News.
An active U.S. service member crossed into North Korea without permission. The American soldier was reportedly due to face disciplinary action by the U.S. military. Minje has the latest.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Tuesday confirmed that an active U.S. service member had crossed a demarcation line over to North Korea without authorization.
Yeah, what I can confirm, and I would say up front that we're very early in this event, and so there's a lot that we're still trying to learn. But what we do know is that one of our service members who was on a tour willfully and without authorization crossed the military demarcation line.
Austin said the soldier, Private Travis King, is believed to be in North Korean custody, and his well-being is still being investigated. According to the U.S. State Department, the Pentagon has reached out to its North Korean counterparts for information. The confirmation comes as United Nations Command in Korea said earlier that a U.S. citizen crossed the military demarcation line while on a group tour to the Joint Security Area in the demilitarized zone. According to a U.S. Army spokesperson, Private King joined the military back in January 2021 and was in Korea as part of the 1st Armored Division. Army and defense officials say King was facing disciplinary action and was set to be administratively separated from the U.S. Army. According to the AP, King had served nearly 2 months in a South Korean prison for assault and was released on July 10th. He was being sent home to Fort Bliss, Texas on Monday. However, after being escorted to the airport, he failed to board his flight and instead left the airport. He then joined a tour of the border village of Panmunjom before crossing over to the north. Such instances of defection are rare, but King now becomes the 7th American soldier to have crossed over to North Korea willingly. Larry Abshire and James Dresnock are 2 well-known cases of U.S. service members who defected to North Korea, having done so in 1962. Minje, Arirang News.
After a marathon debate, South Korea has decided to raise next year's minimum wage by 2.5%. The decision still, however, has failed to completely satisfy both the labor and the business sectors. Our Moon Hye-ryun has the details.
The minimum wage for 2024 has finally been set at 9,860 Korean won per hour. That's roughly $7.80, and an increase of 2.5% from this year. The decision was made early Wednesday morning by the Minimum Wage Commission after a record 110 days of negotiations. The point of contention was deciding between the different rates proposed by the representatives of the labor and business sides of the commission, with those advocating for workers initially suggesting a jump to above 12,000 won and the business side proposing a freeze. The final vote followed fierce debate with a hike to 10,000 won proposed by the labor side against a figure of 9,861. And despite speculation about whether the country's minimum wage might surpass the 10,000 won mark for the first time in history, the rate was set at 9,861 with 17 of the 26 votes in favor. Once the commission submits the result to the Ministry of Employment and Labor, the new minimum wage will be finalized by August 5th. As many as 3 million people are expected to be affected by the change, which will take effect on the first day of 2024. The head of the Federation of the Korean Trade Union spoke out against the final decision, saying that the minimum wage increase did not meet the rates of inflation and would therefore be of little benefit to low-wage workers. The 2.5% rise is the smallest annual rise in the minimum wage in 2 years, with increases of around 5% agreed in both 2021 and 2022 for the following years. It's also one of 3 occasions since 2007 that an annual rise has not met the 3% mark. However, the business representatives argue that a freeze was necessary to support small businesses that are struggling with the economic slowdown, and that an increased minimum wage would result in job losses. While it's possible for both sides to request a re-evaluation of the decision by the Commission, with the Minister of Labour's approval, this has never happened previously. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, over at the National Assembly, lawmakers have voted to toughen the punishments for infanticide and the abandonment for infants. This may mean that those who commit such crimes could receive up to life in prison or the death penalty. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
South Korea's National Assembly at its plenary session on Tuesday passed a bill to toughen punishments for infanticide and infant abandonment. The revision seeks to abolish the lesser punishments outlined by the Criminal Act and instead apply the same degree of punishment as murder and abandonment of non-infants. This revision passed the Assembly with 252 approvals and 8 abstentions among 260 lawmakers present. According to the current Criminal Act, those who commit murder against non-infants can receive up to life in prison or even the death penalty. But infanticide currently only carries a punishment of up to 10 years in prison if the crimes are committed in order to, quote, avoid disgrace or for fear of not being able to bring the baby up or for some other extenuating motive. For the abandonment of non-infants, it's up to 3 years in prison. For the same crime committed against infants, only up to 2 years. These articles were included in the Criminal Act back in 1953 when it was first enacted to take into consideration the situation some parents may have found themselves in. But the recent infanticide cases of unregistered babies have instigated public uproar and eventually led to the revision to the part of the Act. The revision was brought to the plenary session after passing the Legislation and Judiciary Committee on Monday.
Removing the reduced penalties for crimes against infants for the first time in 70 years would closely protect the infant's right to life.
Now the passed revision is expected to be promulgated at the cabinet meeting in the near future to be enacted 6 months after. The parliament last month passed a bill requiring hospitals to report the birth of newborns to a government agency to prevent abuse of unregistered children. It's also discussing measures to give the option of anonymous births to prevent mothers from giving birth outside of hospitals due to the new registration requirement. Also at Tuesday's session, the Assembly passed a bill approving the appointments of Supreme Court Justice nominees Kwon Young-jun and Seo Kyung-won. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
After weeks of speculation, South Korea's Kim Min-jae signed with German champions Bayern Munich on Tuesday, making his move from Napoli official. Bayern paid a transfer fee of $56.1 million to sign the 26-year-old defender, the highest ever paid for an Asian footballer. The 5-year deal will also see him paid a salary of $13.4 million per year. Kim won the Serie A title with Napoli last season, where he was also named the league's top defender. He also joins Bayern team that has won the last 11 Bundesliga titles. Now on to the latest evolution of robots. Now there's a walking robot called Dreamwalker that can navigate diverse environments without relying on visual cues. Our Shin Se-byuk tells us how this robot can help us humans.
A dog-shaped quadrupedal walking robot is climbing stairs. Things can get slippery, but the robot doesn't falter. It can also regain its balance quickly after unexpected knocks.
Introducing Dreamwalker, the robot named after its key technology, Dreamwalk. Just as people are able to navigate to the bathroom in the dark after waking up at night, Dreamwalker has also no need for visual cues.
Using just 2 sensors, joint and inertial, the Dreamwalker, developed by a KAIST research team, can go anywhere. Once it encounters new obstacles, it can quickly plan an optimal path using its past experience, which enables it to adapt to new environments. To achieve this capability, the Dreamwalker has undergone reinforcement learning with approximately 1,000 robots going through a variety of simulations. As soon as it touches the ground, the robot determines what kind of terrain it is on based on its previously learned environments. The whole process takes place in 1,000th of a second. This skill is comparable to a person being able to navigate something like a stairway based on their past experiences. Another thing that sets Dreamwalker apart is its semi-autonomous operation, unlike other quadrupedal robots that typically require full manual control.
It's like semi-autonomous. If human cannot intervene, for example, when there's a problem with the communication, there's a delay, or like we cannot know the precise location of the robot can just localize its own self and then finish the mission.
In June this year, the team won first place at the Quadruped Robot Challenge after competing against 10 teams, including MIT and Carnegie Mellon University. In the future, Dreamwalker's unique features could be used in many situations, especially in dangerous settings.
We are planning to enhance the technology for various everyday applications, specifically in industries. We envision using it for tasks such as inspecting high places or monitoring the management of hazardous gas leaks in plants.
The research team also said they hope the robot could be utilized for missions in disaster areas such as for collapsed buildings, fires, and more, while ensuring safety and efficiency. 신세벽, 아리랑 뉴스, 대전.
Good afternoon. The monsoon that drenched heavy showers on the Korean peninsula is taking a break today, and now the sweltering heat sets in. Afternoon highs are going up 5 to 7 degrees higher than yesterday, hovering above 30 degrees Celsius in most parts under sunny skies. Sunshine can be quite strong, boosting UV rays to very high levels in most of the central regions this afternoon, so please have your sun protection gear ready. Meanwhile, there could be passing showers in inland areas with up to 20 millimeters in the forecast during the day today. Sunny skies, warmth, and high humidity will make it feel hotter than these actual temperatures. Also, food safety is a must around this time. Wash and dry hands thoroughly before starting to prepare or eat any food. Heat carries on through Saturday with a good chance of more regions having a tropical night for a few days. Then monsoon rain is forecast to make its return to the country late on Saturday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Amid the devastation from the torrential rain, there are also inspiring stories of heroes, including Chung Young-suk, or the man in a navy shirt, as people will recall. The public officer saved 3 people from the tragic flash flood that swept an underpass in Osong. Standing on a car roof, he pulled them out from the water and they escaped the scene together. He says he was able to help only with the help of a truck driver who saved him first, along with 2 others. The picture shows his hands covered with scars, but still, we can only imagine the risk he must have taken. This is where we end today's newscast. Thank you so much for watching.